Superman soars to 122 million, third biggest box office opening weekend of 2025. That's probably pretty good. It's been a pretty terrible year. We've got a couple of $1 billion movies that one I didn't see and will not see. One I did see and hated. And then this. And that's fantastic. At least they're not calling it the highest grossing Superman movie opening weekend for a Superman movie, because that's absolutely not true. Updated. Superman can lift up a collapsing buildings, Godzilla-sized monster, and now the box office. Superman, this is lowered expectations. It's the lowered expectations, and this has been brought up as well, and I agree. We are in a different era than 2019, so we are now dealing with the lowered expectations of Hollywood. So that being said, yes, absolutely. Personally, I think this is mid, particularly for the international numbers. Superman, the newly rebooted comic book adventure starring David Corenswet as the Man of Steel, flew to 125 million in its first weekend of release. Monday's actual tally was above Sunday's estimate of 122 million. Those are strong ticket sales, enough to rank as the year's largest debut after Minecraft, 162 million, and Lilo and Stitch, 146 million. Both movies that had extensive legs and very good international. Turnout was slightly softer than expected in the international box office, with $195 from 78 markets, bringing the global tally to 220. Box office watchers say they aren't surprised that Superman started stronger in the U.S. compared to overseas, because the character, whose motto is Truth, Justice, the American Way, is a quintessential Star-Spangled hero. Probably should have put Truth, Justice, and the American Way in it, and maybe you made a few million more dollars. This is an outstanding domestic opening. If there's any softness here, it's overseas, says David A. Gross, who runs the franchise movie consulting firm. Superman has always been identified as an American character, and in some parts of the world, America is currently not enjoying its greatest popularity. That's any time. Warner Brothers and DC Studios have a lot at stake, and not just because Superman cost a hefty $225 million. Okay, so earlier on a financial document from signed by a state or city worker at Cleveland, said it was 360. Maybe that was including the marketing at the time. So they're saying it's 225 million with $100 million marketing. Bullshit. Utter bullshit. Complete bullshit. I don't believe that for a second. Do I believe this was a $500 million movie? I don't know. No, probably not. But I'm thinking its reality was it's closer to 380, 400. That's but like, hey, let's roll with it. Let's start believing the studios now, man. Let's start taking the studios word at face value. Let's start doing that now, because it's Warner Brothers and not Disney. Because Warner Brothers are the good guys and Disney are the bad guys. Disney are the bad guys. But this thought out there, because David Zaslav canceled Batgirl, which he should have done, but went ahead and released things like the Joker too. And is some kind of like he canceled Black Superman. Nobody was ever going to come out with Black Superman, and it's not canceled. It can still be made, by the way, so it's not canceled. Don't think it will be made, because I don't think David Zaslav's stupid, but he's also overseen things like bringing back Peter Jackson and Philippa Boyens to write War of the Rohirrim, which was pure intersectional feminism. Most of you didn't see it, but he lorded over that, allowed it to be released. This is the first pure Zaslav thing, but Zaslav and Warner Brothers oversee HBO, who gave us Black Snape. So I'm not ready to call him a hero. Call me crazy. Do I probably like him more than I like Iger? Sure, I guess. But has anybody seen CBS TV programming? It's not like Warner Brothers is like the based network, okay? Because they're not. So it's been updated to 125. That's up 3 million. That's good. Problem is, without adjusting for inflation, back in June 16th of 2013, I still own the comic shop back in these days. Weekend box office, Man of Steel soars to 128 million debut. Now, the number of 116.6, I believe, has been floated out there, because technically that's true. The Friday through Sunday total was 116 million. They didn't add the Thursday preview. The Thursday preview was pretty much, not even worth mentioning because back then it was at, maybe 9 or 10 o'clock. There was a few shows sprinkled in. It wasn't Tuesday, Prime member only, almost a full day of release, and Thursday fan screening, which was a full day of release. So Superman, James Gunn's Superman, or Superman's James Gunn, had a 5-day opening weekend. Let's not pretend because they didn't add some 10 and 11 shows. It's not a full fucking day. So they had a 5-day opening weekend. Now, I don't think Superman's James Gunn or Man of Steel are 10 out of 10 movies. Okay. I just don't. I don't think Man of Steel's anywhere is not the best Superman movie. It is not. It is not. That is 78 Superman and Superman 2, The Donner Cut. Those are the two top Superman movies. They have yet to be beat. It's not like Warner Brothers hasn't had the resource and the time to do it. They just haven't done it. I don't make the rules. I just make the observations. But it made $128 million. So without adjusting it for inflation, Man of Steel opened to more. Now, will Superman's James Gunn have a rally and again have legs? It could. Absolutely could. It could perform just like Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 and leg out $700 to $800 million. I think I'm along with everybody else. I predicted 650 to 700 million for this movie. I don't think that's unrealistic, and that's definitely successful enough to continue with your universe. Absolutely. Will they learn? No, they never do, especially with James Gunn's ego. And then we have, for comparison, the Batman did better, and it should, because Batman's a more popular hero than Superman. The Batman certainly had its problems too. Terrible third act, shady Waynes, fucking incel Riddler, who's a YouTuber. It had its problems too. Believe me, the Penguin, much better. Much better. Orders of magnitude better than the Batman. Ant-Man 3 Commie Mania did better than Superman. Not by much. A few $1 million. But this is Ant-Man. Ant-Man. Doing better than Superman. Yeah, so that softer international was about 95 million in all of the markets for Superman. Man of Steel, you can't really compare because they staggered the release. Can't really compare to that. Oh, I forgot to mention, Man of Steel's domestic opening, adjusted for inflation, over $160 million domestic. So it beats Superman's James Gunn by a lot. Is that all James Gunn's fault? No. Before they launched this DC, well, yes and no. They released a bunch of flops. One of those flops said James Gunn said it was his favorite superhero movie. I now believe Disbrew when he said that I think James was being honest here, and I agree. We also have the firing of Henry Cavill, which James Gunn knew about, but he was never going to continue with them. Now, did James Gunn lie to all these people and lie to the public? Yes, James Gunn lies. So that's his fault. James Gunn lies a lot. So that's why I'm kind of confused why people who would criticize Disney's lack of honesty with the box office are just going to believe this. I'm not. Hell no. I'm not going to start believing the access media. So Ant-Man 3 did better than Superman. The Batman did better than Superman. The Batman was a 3-hour movie too. And it legged out almost $800 million, which is like, when you make a Batman movie, you expect $1 billion. You do. This movie, Superman's James Gunn, should have made a domestic $200 million weekend. That's what it should have done. Absolutely should have done. And maybe they should have waited a year. Maybe they should have taken a few more. I could give them all the shits in the world, taking a few more passes at the script. I don't know. I think time will tell on this one. I think it will be in time, though. It was okay. It was all right. All right. It wasn't really that good. We've seen that play out a lot. But maybe not. People just will say this is the greatest thing and be a, prisoner of the moment's a thing. It's absolutely a thing. But we'll see. We'll see. Deadpool and Wolverine, you could argue, hey, these are bigger characters. They've been in bigger hits and Marvels. But in the comic book world, these are not bigger characters than Superman. Superman's one of the most well-known characters in the world. But DC has also done damage to its own brand by not respecting the character of Superman. And we saw that in this display in James Gunn's Superman. Deadpool Wolverine did 211 million domestic. 211 million, almost 100 million more than this movie. And you're like, well, it's Hugh Jackman, it's Ryan Reynolds. And I'm like, no, but this is Superman. It's directed by James Gunn. It's relaunching an entire universe. And arguably, no, not even arguably, there's been more attention and more talk about this movie than any Marvel movie that has come out this year or will come out this year. This is the first time in recent memory, and I'm talking half a decade, where DC has completely outshone Marvel. Completely. Drowned out the Marvel conversation to the point where they're dropping Fantastic Four teasers and people going, dropped a couple big ones too. We find out in a press conference that confirming the spoilers that Galactus won't attack Earth if Sue and Reed give up Franklin. And they said no. And then it'll turn into a girl boss story where female Silver Surfer and Invisible Girl. I'm just going off the spoilers. We'll save the day. And the boys will just be background going, yay, girls. But yeah, I this is the first time like this was your chance to shine. And right now, when you needed a walk-off home run, I'd say right now it looks like you got a single. Maybe a single. We'll see how the word of mouth is. There's no competition next week except for there is a Pedro Pascal movie coming out next week and the following week. So there's one called Eddington, which I don't think will compete at all because I think it's going to be terrible, which I will be reviewing. Yeah, there's nothing really else coming out next month, or next week. So it doesn't have any competition for next week. So if it maintains a decent hold and it's got a chance, because after Fantastic Four, it's kind of nothing. So it's got a chance. Do I think Jurassic Park's still going to trounce both these movies? Yes. And it's looking pretty strong for Jurassic, whatever the fuck it is. It's already at $500 million. So yes, I think the prediction that most of the world came up with is going to be correct. It's going to be correct. Oh, look, there's going to be a spinoff for Mr. Terrific. The guy who stole the show in the Superman movie, Mr. Terrific, who was good, didn't respect Superman either. When Superman said, hey, I want to take this kaiju to a zoo or something, he just goes and kills it. And many of us thought that they were going to kind of do a reverse Kingdom Come. So this Justice Gang was going to go out there and wreak havoc, and Superman was going to have to clean up their mess and then kind of show them the way of being a hero by getting their respect, showing them how to get shit done without killing people. And I think I'm like, okay, I mean, like, that doesn't sound horrible. Like, Superman comes in to this horrible world. And that's why the Authority was going to be part of this. The Authority was going to be part of this. And that mindset, that was such a red flag to everybody who's read a comic book. Went, what? So when James Gunn announced the DCU, one of the second or third things out of his mouth was, we're going to bring in we're going to do an Authority movie. And I'm like, what the hell? So what the Authority is a postmodern Justice League. It's the boys. It's got a Superman and a Batman character who end up in a gay marriage. It ended up being a good comic, but they're very alternate universe, but DC bought Wildstorm and introduced them, blah, 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 whatever. But it's very of its time, 2000s. And it's not what you start the DCU with. Now, you can bring the Authority in a decade down the road after multiple hits, and they could present themselves as a challenge to a fully established Justice League. That would work. That would totally work. You don't make them your second or third movie. You don't introduce them in Superman, which they originally were going to be. Remember, they were written out. It is, that was a massive red flag. And now, like, a lot of my concerns were justified because it feels like they dialed that back a little bit, but Superman doesn't really grow as a character. He's tough. He's tough in the sense that he doesn't give up, but man, he whines about it. He's frustrated about it. He's super frustrated, man. He's Superboy. I've heard, Verbal Riot, I love Dante, say it's only year 3. It's only year 3. So he's Superboy. So he's still acting like Superboy in year 3, and he didn't get his ass kicked once in 3 years with all these metahumans around and stuff. So we're told via text that when we see Superman crash, that's him losing his first fight. So to make this movie work, you needed to establish that Superman had respect and was a hero, and they did not do that. They wrote about it, but they never showed it. He gets kicked in the balls. He gets called a bitch. He gets saved by the dog multiple times. One time is fine. I like Crypto. I didn't have a problem with Crypto. I just think it went on a little too long, but I didn't have a problem with Crypto. But yeah, we didn't get to see Superman be super or a man. That's my criticism of it. And there's too many people taking away from his character. And that's what my concern was with the superhero movie going forward. We have a James Gunn's more comfortable in an ensemble piece, obviously, because that's what he did with Superman. Superman is a solo fucking story. Superman, Lois, Jimmy, Lex Luthor. Sure, you could have Crypto and Steve Lombard and Miss Tessmacher in the background. Perry White. I needed more Perry White. No other superheroes. None. Soup versus Lex. Brawn versus Brain. That's how you start it. And then you could bring in Bizarro and Mr. Mxyzptlk and Brainiac and all that shit. General Zod again. I don't care. You could bring all that stuff in later. I'm fine with not showing the origin. I'm totally on board with that. Everybody knows it. But there's too many characters. Mr. Terrific being more interesting than Superman is in his own movie is a crime. I mean, great for Mr. Terrific. And I do think James Gunn could pull off a pretty decent Justice League International movie. I think that's more his speed. And I think somebody else should write and direct future Superman projects. That's what I think. I do not think James Gunn is right for Superman. And my proof is watching that movie.
Nerderotic.com. Please subscribe.